Wars are one of the most important historical events that have deeply influenced the fate of people and countries throughout history. Heroes, sad farewells, and unforgettable stories are also recorded by wars. Kazuo Higa's story, which is a result of the Second World War, is also on the island where 32 men are left alone. World War II changed the lives of many people and made its name in history with bitter traces. The traces of the war, where children stayed without a father, the houses turned into debris, and nearly 80 million people from 8 countries lost their lives, are still clearly seen with their shipwrecks, land wrecks, and military and civil cemeteries in the oceans. However, there is such an event during the war that it is not very common. When Kazuo Higa was an ordinary woman, her story that made her a queen began with her Japanese ship shot with American missiles. Higa was now left alone on island with 32 men. 28-year-old Kazuo Higa was a woman who lived on Anatahan Island with her husband until the Japanese ship was shot with American missiles. Anatahan, an island in the Northern Mariana Islands in the Pacific Ocean, came to the fore with the fact that the archipelago had one of the most active volcanoes, and often known as a place full of abandoned settlements. Nowadays, although it was a settlement, the island, which was desolate due to the danger of constant volcanic explosion, was home to a completely different story during the Second World War. Towards the end of World War II, a man named Shuichi Higa and his wife Kazuko lived on Anatahan Island. Although there are many Japanese living on the islanders who worked at the Higa family farm also left. Now the Higa couple was left alone on the island. However, Kazuo Higa knew her husband Shuichi's concerns about his sister, who lived in Saipan. For this reason, Kazuo took responsibility for the farm from the young man and helped him to go to his sister. At that time, the temperature of the war was not over. Shuichi Higa could not find his sister, and all his efforts were insufficient to return to his wife. Kazuo Higa was now alone in Anatahan. One day, the Japanese ship was shot with missiles thrown from US aircraft. 31 people who escaped from the ship and survived, and all male, reached Anatahan Island. These people aged between 20 to 30 could have been a threat to Kazuo. For this reason, Gensaburo Yoshino, who worked at Shuichi's farm, suggested that he and Kazuo behave like married, so that the sailors could prevent him. Although this continued for a while, Morio, one of the sailors, stabbed Yoshino until he forcibly entered Kazuo's life. Now the balance of power on the island has changed, and the only woman, Kazuo, began to be remembered like the queen. Although she was always safe by the queen character, the men who were with Kazuo were always in danger, because there was always a conflict with other men on the island. One day, the fact that 2 men came across a falling US aircraft changed all the balances again. The fact that they found 2 pistols inside changed the balance of power for the 3rd time. Kazuo finally married Ryuichiro Yanagiboshi. 11 men competing for the only woman on the island, the rest of the men decided that the struggle was over. Now their only purpose in life was to get rid of the island. In addition to his efforts to survive on the island during the Second World War, the struggle for Kazuo, who was seen as the only woman, ended. Although the US ships came and told the Japanese on the island the war was over, it was not reliable. The United States said that if they wanted, they could return to Japan and support them. But no one believed them, and everyone stayed on the island. A new war was beginning for Kazuo. Now the men had stopped fighting for her, which showed that her life was in danger. Kazuo lived in the forest for a month, hoping to stop a US ship often passing through the region. One day her effort made a result, and Kazuo returned to Japan. Like the Second World War, Kazuo Higa's war took 6 years. After he returned to his country with the US ship, only men remained on the island. After a while, US ships once again offered men to save them because of their letters from their families. In the letters, the war was really over, white flags swayed, and men left the island with American boats. Kazuo returned to Japan as a hero. This brave woman was stranded on an island with 32 men. It is time to start a new life for Kazuo, who learned that her husband was married because he thought she was dead. He was also aware that he had to find a way to make money. First, she turned to the media. She told her story, wrote a book, starred in games and films. However, Kazuko's acting was so bad that this profession was not long-term for her. The sailors returned to Japan, ignoring their struggle to win Kazuko on the island, and wrote a book that made her bad. Kazuko's reputation had received a big blow. The story of the men was accepted by everyone that the story was real, and Kazuko had to move to a rural area. After that day, it's a mystery. According to some, Kazuko opened a small cafe and married again. Some said that Kazuko met with his ex-husband Shuichi by chance, and that they had married again. The Japanese film Anatahan, a 1953 black and white war drama, was inspired by the experiences of Kazuo Higa between 1944 to 1951. In addition to Higa's films she acted and books she wrote, many directors and publishers immortalized this story. Written by Japanese writer Kaoru Ono on the island of Anatahan in the Pacific Ocean, the novel Cage in the Sea was one of them. It was the story of Kazuko described in this book, and she inspired this book 50 years later, as well as inspired the 1953 film Anatahan.
This process, in which Kazuko lives with 32 men as the only woman, offers us striking examples of power dynamics, leadership struggles, and the dark aspects of human psychology.
I hope you like it if you've watched it so far. If you like my work and you want to be aware when I upload my videos to YouTube, you can support me and encourage me by sharing the video and following me. Kind regards.